Today's comics market is ripe with new titles by creators who are determined to get their books into your hands. My name is Onrie. For the last decade, I've been making and selling my own creator-owned comics and dealing as a collector in live sales. My signature series, Hutchison, is the book that cannot be defeated in battle and has over 250,000 copies in print. Now I'm taking comics to the next level and laying the groundwork for my fellow creators to get their voices heard so they can connect directly with you. This is your chance to engage live with top comic book talent and get your comics signed without having to wait in long lines or pay any fees. But remember, we only have a limited amount of their books in stock, so always remember to call it as you see it. You're watching Virtual Signings with Onrie, the live event show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the early evening Virtual Signings with Onrie show. We got Tom Hutchison in the house, who was here a little earlier this afternoon, and I have changed my scenery here. I'm going to just lift this up here. We got a Big Dog Inc. rack right over here, and Tom is going to tell us all about who he is and what he does in a moment here. And then after that, we're going to continue our conversation, because if you guys didn't watch the show that was on our channel earlier, you missed out. Tom is somebody that I really look up to, and he's just a wellspring of knowledge for me. And not only that, he puts out some pretty dope comics. I mean, check out these covers here. He's going to tell you all about this. These are limited edition books that we have for sale. So everything that's up here right now is for sale. All this stuff here, just ignore it. It's just, who cares about that stuff? Can we get Tom out here? Tom Hutchison!
What's up? What's up?
What's up, brother?
How's it going?
Good to see you again, man. Why don't you tell us all who you are, what you do, in case we don't know?
Sure.
Start off with the formalities.
Yeah. So I am Tom Hutchison. I am the publisher, Big Dog Inc. I write most of the titles that we do, 99% of them. The ones that I don't write are written by my editor, actually, Carrie Castor. But we've been doing this now for 11 years. We had our 10-year anniversary last year for Big Dog Inc. and a couple of our titles. We're celebrating 10 years of The Legend of Oz this year. And that's just it. We've been powerhousing this since 2010. We've had multiple books on the Diamond Top 300, all that kind of good stuff. So, yeah. That's what we do. That's who we are. That's what we're going to keep on doing.
That's awesome, Tom. And, you know, that's the thing. Doing this for 10 years, you know, you certainly go through periods where you have your ups and your downs. What would you say, if you could look back on where you are now, what would you have said to yourself 10 years ago when you first decided to, you know, jump into this and make a go at it as a publisher?
That wasn't even the goal back then, really. I mean, it was kind of. I mean, when I first started doing comics, it was just supposed to be this side thing. You know, it's like, hey, I've got a job. I'm writing comics back 10 years ago and 11, 15 years ago, when I was trying to figure out what that meant to write a comic. But it was never intended to be what I did. It only became what I did when, you know, this was like 2000. Oh God, what? I don't know. 8, 9, running into, you know, the recession that we went into and all that. Lost the job that I had. And at that point I had Critter and Penny for Your Soul kind of, you know, ready to go. And I was like, okay, well, let's see what I can do with this. I pitched Penny to a couple of publishers. Didn't get any responses. That kind of was like, all right, let's just put the big chip right there. And I'm going to go ahead and take these to market anyway. We'll see what happens. You know, we sold out a Penny for Your Soul the instant we sent it out. And really at that point we were off to the races. Then it was figuring out, okay, what does that mean? What do we need to do for the next issue? What do we need for new titles? What do we need to literally be a publisher, versus just, hey, I'm writing a comic and going to a con on the weekend. So none of it was planned. It was all just kind of, okay, this door is open, so we're just going to open the door and we're going to follow it wherever it goes. And here we are 11 years later.
So were you like, was there, I mean, once you started to see success and like, look, I can do this and make it work as a full-time gig. Was there has to be a level of satisfaction that comes from that, right? I mean, you know, like, it's not like this isn't your typical 9-to-5 job, and you don't have a boring job.
I mean, it may not be. I mean, here's the thing. People, they always say, like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, that's BS, because this is all work, you know. Now, it's not digging a ditch. It's not putting green beans on the shelf at a Walmart, obviously, but it's still all work. I mean, you know, the writing is work, the editing is work, the finding people to do the art is work. It's all work. Everything is work, and it's all exhausting. So you have to be prepared for, and I wasn't. I mean, I literally, I just took the tiger by the tail and just ran with it. I mean, at the time I was married, I had somebody who was helping as far as, like, you know, the general monthly bills was going, so that, you know, I could just kind of focus on this stuff. So I had extra help that was going on. We used to have a guy who helped us do like mailing and shipping and all of that, so that I didn't have to do it. But you know, we went through a lot of different stages in 11 years. We were by ourselves. We were doing well. Then we went over to Aspen Comics for a while. We did well there. Then we came out of Aspen, and we've been doing Kickstarters now for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. And that's kind of where we are. And the Kickstarter world is completely different from just making a comic, sending it to Diamond, getting it in the catalog, hoping stores buy it. It's a completely different world. So we've kind of existed in all of these different facets over the last 11 years to get to where we are now, which is still a lot of work, but it's just different work.
I agree with that, you know, and you know, it's just like, even when we're talking about any capacity that you're working in comics, the one thing that everybody seems to kind of like overlook and not pay attention to is the excessive amount of lifting that you have to do with all the books you're carrying.
Yes.
Sorting through, whether you're publishing or whether you're selling, it doesn't matter, because you're getting stock. You got to like pick up your books. You got to put them somewhere. And, you know, there's a lot of physical work. So I agree with you that it's, you know, most of the time it feels like you don't have enough hours in the day. Like, you just wish you could do this one stupid thing in 10 minutes, but it ends up being like an hour job. And, you know, that's an hour of your time. That's an hour of your energy that, you know, we all need to sleep. We all run on, you know, a certain gas tank we're going to hit empty at some point. And that's another thing I don't like, is when people are like, yeah, I just keep going, you know, I'm going to stay up till like 3 a.m. and work, you know, and that's great when you can manage it. But when you can't do that on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's not a what are we going to call it? It's not a it's not sustainable. You know, it's not something that you can just do forever. You know, you can have a period of time where you're just like pounding it. You're like, yeah, it's like 3 a.m. and I'm writing and I'm doing things. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I've done that 100%. But it's not sustainable. So you have to take the time sometimes to just step away and be like, okay, I got to breathe. I got to walk. I got to get air. I got to clear my head. I can't be just like here all the time. I mean, it's impossible. Whether it's, and that's not just comics. That's just life in general. That's your general job. That's whatever you're doing. Sometimes you just got to step away from it, clear your head. And that's one of the things that used to be really good, about doing the cons for me, is because I would, drive to them. And so I would have days of time just on the road, just by myself, listening to music, having a movie on the iPad, whatever. And just like completely, I'm technically I'm working, but I'm not working, you know? And so when I would get to the hotel, that's where I would like sit down and I'd be like, okay, what did I think about today? What do I need to do from a script standpoint? What can I do here? What can I do there? But it was days of time where I wasn't powerhousing the work. And then of course you got to the con and you had to powerhouse the work. But then you go home and you know, then you're kind of back to it. But
I forgot about all that. You know, it's like, you know, being out of conventions, like, you know, after doing my first one, it's like you forget about all the setup shit. It's like, or Poop. We didn't say the S word on the EXP. That doesn't happen on.
It's funny because like you usually get at least like an entire day to set up. Sometimes you have a couple of days depending on the show. But then they all expect you to get the hell out in like 5 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. Sunday night, it's like, okay, we're done. Get out. Don't want you here anymore.
Well, that's why I was always trying to sell out on Sunday so that I wouldn't have to just be out here.
Everything's $1. Take it. I don't want to pack it up.
Get out of here. It's done. We're sold out. Okay, so we were talking earlier. Del, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. We were talking earlier about a bunch of things that you have in the works right now.
I don't have anything in them. I don't do anything. I sit around. I watch Seinfeld. I drink grape soda. This is all I do.
It was grape juice earlier. Now Tom has upgraded to grape soda.
No, it's still juice. Still juice. There's no bubbles in my juice.
No bubbles in your juice. So we were talking about, all the cylinders that you got going on. You got Kickstarter. You got conventions. You got
no. Well, we don't have conventions yet.
Yeah, conventions yet.
They're coming back. They're starting to fire up. But even then, there's only going to be a few.
Right. But even before that, right? Let's just go back pre-COVID. This is what you had going on because you built something, right? So you got Kickstarter, you got conventions, you got live sales, and now you got Patreon too. And I'm really interested in Patreon because it's one of those. I feel like every one of these platforms is like a new like nut to crack. But
totally, they all work differently, 100%.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Patreon. Like, what are you doing to entice people to come, and what are you doing to kind of like spread the? Well, we know what you're doing to spread the word, but what are you doing to kind of keep people engaged and intact with what you're doing on there?
Well, I mean, I didn't really know what to do for Patreon when we started to do it. And so for me, I was like, well, I know that I do what I call burlesque marketing, which is basically just everything's a tease. It's like, oh, I'm going to do a thing. And, there's like this little tiny image, and you get to see that. And that's all you get to see. And people know, and they laugh and they're like, yeah, I get it. I even found this, my burlesque marketing.
Awesome.
So we do that. But then I was like, so what if I took that and I said, okay, well, let's just show everybody what we're going to do in a capacity that isn't just to the general public, so that if people wanted to be involved in the building of BDI, everything from a creative standpoint, I've posted scripts, I've posted like logo designs, character designs, page layouts to pencils to colors, so they can watch it all happening, whether it's covers or interiors, whatever. It's basically what we have done with Patreon is it's for the people. It's for two people. It's for the people who like to watch it happen. And it's for the people who are interested in how it happens, because there are creators that are like, how the hell do you do this? And I'm like, well, come to Patreon and you're going to watch these steps. Like, we got this artist, we got these roughs. We turn these roughs into these lines. We turn these lines into these colors. We turn these colors into this logo. So on and on. And same with the script. It's like, here's the script. The script turns into these panels. These panels turn into these lines, on and on and on. So it's really for two people. It's for the people that love to watch it happen. And it's for the people who are like, dude, how do you do this? Well, this is, generally speaking, this is how we do it. So you get a lot of early looks at everything that we do. In addition, everybody that's there for 6 months gets a free variant cover of some kind. That's just like a straight bonus right off the top. Here is a free cover. Thank you for being part of the Big Dog Patreon for 6 months. We now do Patreon perks. So if you're a Kickstarter backer and you're a Patreon person, you're going to get a bonus item just because you're doing both things. So just things like that, just very, very simple. And it's as little as $5 a month. $5 a month gets you everything that we do. If you want to level up to the $10 a month level, that's where we do some things like voting on stuff. So we had a new character show up in the most recent Legend of Oz book, and we didn't really have a name for him because weirdly in the Oz lore, he doesn't have a name. He's just known as the long-eared hearer. And I was like, that's dumb. I'm not calling him that. So let's find a name for him. And so we let the Patreon members vote on what this guy's name was going to be. So we gave him 5 options. They had about a month to vote, and his name is now Beauregard, and he is now official Oz canon for Big Dog Inc. So that's a little bonus thing that the $10 patrons get to do, is vote on those types of things. So that's what we do.
So I would love that. I love that idea because you're bringing everybody. You know, it's like you're finding there's all kinds of people who are going to pick up your books, and it's like earlier you were talking about how anybody who comes by your booth, it's like there's something for everybody there. You like superheroes, you got Critter. You like kaiju stuff, you got kaiju stuff. You like Oz, you got Oz. Everything is, you got all your bases covered. So that's from a standpoint of like products that you offer. But it's also a method of delivery too. And I really like how you're using Patreon because you know who you're targeting with that. You know who's going to want to use that, and you're allowing them to have that access, and you're giving them a part of the decision making. Like, even if you're just a fan, it's like, yeah, I had a part in naming that character Beauregard.
Yep.
I think that's a very powerful thing. That's some really cool stuff. Okay, so now I want to kind of change it over to something else that I think is just really cool, and I just want to tell you what I've perceived it as.
Okay.
And then, just because I think it's just so freaking awesome. And then, I want to hear all about it from you. So you got Camp Rad Dog. Everybody who's watching this and knows Tom has heard of Camp Rad Dog. This is Tom Hutchison and Jim Noble teaming up to make a new comic. And you guys have done something really, really awesome. You've created this, I want to say, almost like a cult. And it's a cult.
Is that what we did?
It's a club. It's a club. Let's call it a club.
Okay.
We'll turn into a cult later on. You got to stick around for the midnight.
Sure. Yeah. The midnight bonfires. Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. It's like, we're not actually at this camp, but I got this feeling just from the backdrop you got over here. I got this perfect setup. I'm thinking of One Crazy Summer, and you got camp counselors. You got you guys as the head counselors, and it's like you got this really great feeling here of a community building.
Sure.
So I just want to hear about how this happened, how it got to where it is, and where you plan on going with it.
What's funny is we haven't even started this thing. I mean, we've started it, but it's not till July. So it's like everything that we're doing for this is like, okay, what do we do today, man? I don't know, man. What do you want to do today? Let's make a post. Okay, let's make a post. Let's get the counselors. Okay, let's get the counselors. Let the counselors, they can post. Okay, cool. Let the counselors post. Like, what do we do? What are we doing? I have no idea. But basically this is Jimmy Noble and myself. I met Jim through Phil Locklear, who was doing his own live shows, show called Unscripted. Jim was a regular on that show. I started to do them on occasion. Jim and I kind of oddly, I don't know how. Jim and I hit it off though, because we're so polar opposite of each other, like polar opposites. But we do have a general personality from a sort of nostalgia sense of the 80s and from movies and all that kind of stuff. So, that's why we now have a movie show that we do together every week. We talk movies. This was something, I don't remember exactly how it came up, but this was last year sometime when we were doing these shows, and something happened where he had mentioned he was going to do something like an ash can summer camp thing. And that just kind of resonated with me. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And he would talk about it again. I was like, yeah, we could have like dueling summer camps like they had in Meatballs. And I was like, yeah, that'd be funny. And it just kind of kept going. It just kind of kept snowballing. Like every time we were talking, it's like, oh, one more roll. One more roll. And all of a sudden it was like December and January. It's like, so we're doing this, right? Like we're going to actually, everything that we've talked about, we're going to do this. And it was like, yeah, we're going to do it. So, okay, well then we need to know what the hell we're doing, because this is like 6 months away now. And so in January, we sat down and we got really, really serious about, okay, what is this going to be? How is it going to work? What are we going to do to make it different? What are we going to do for like engagement to make it interesting for the fans, because it's not just like, oh, here's another Kickstarter and there's some stuff. So what we figured out that we're going to do, and you'll see the two different logos. Camp Crossover, that is my camp. Camp Retro is Jim's camp. Camp Rad Dog is just sort of the umbrella thing that we have it under. So what this is going to be is two basically competing camps, two Kickstarters launching at the same time, ending at the same time. The Camp Retro will be his characters doing whatever it is they're going to do. The Camp Crossover will be whatever my characters are going to do in our own separate stories, though there may be threads that sort of connect them. It's sort of like, okay, there's this huge lake and there's a camp over there and there's a camp over here, and they're just doing their thing. And so they might intermingle a little, but really it's their own separate stories. Right. And so the Kickstarters will be for the books, for the variants that we're going to have. But what we're also going to do is have, I think it's going to be week 2 when we do some add-ons. That's when we're actually going to have crossover elements where we're going to do, like in the movie Meatballs, they have the summer camp Olympics. So they have,
I just want to point out, Scott James, that the reason why I was thinking of One Crazy Summer is because Tom reminds me of John Cusack and Steven Seagal now, because you said it. So it's like a combination of the two. So sorry that I mixed up Meatballs and One Crazy Summer.
Yeah.
Go on,
so
Tom.
Meatballs, they have the summer camp Olympics. And so it's like, they have they run, they swim, they do all these things. So what we're going to do is we're going to have covers, add-on covers, that'll be our characters, like Kitty Banger for him, and she'll be swimming. And then like on my side, it'll be Catnip, and she'll be swimming. But it will be a cover that connects so that they're actually competing, so that we will have competing camp covers that will be like puzzle covers that'll connect. But his will be available on his, mine will be available on mine, and you can buy one or the other. You don't have to buy both. But if you do buy both, you will get, how you do like stretch goals. Hey, we made 19,000. Here's a little bonus thing. In this case, if you go to his camp and you buy his swimming cover, you go to my camp and you buy my swimming cover, you're automatically going to get a patch, swimming patch. Like you've earned the swimming patch, We have David Fott designing all of these different patches for us. So there's going to be patches for all of the connecting covers. There's going to be a patch you can earn if you just back both campaigns. Boom, immediately you've earned a patch. Just stuff like that, just to keep it fun and engaging throughout the whole thing. More so just about doing something within the campaign, within the whole structure of Camp Rad Dog, earning these patches and so on. Than focusing on like, hey, we've hit 20,000, whatever. We want to focus on the books and the fun of the collecting of the books. Then we want to worry about, what money we're making. That's not really the point of the whole thing. We want to create like an event, an actual event where people are doing things. Granted, some of what they're doing is pledging to the campaign, but we're going to do like, scavenger hunts and things like that they can do on their own. And again, just keep earning those patches and badges and all that kind of stuff. And so that's basically the gist of it.
Okay, well, I want to know about the girls. I don't care about the comics. Tell us about these counselors, because they're far more interesting than any comic. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure, yeah, no, the counselors are way better than anything that we're going to come up with.
Of course.
That's just it. So there's 3 counselors right now. We have Morgan Bailey, we have Marseille Phillips, and we have Allison Lear. They are our cosplay counselors. As we get closer to the actual event, they'll be a little more active as far as the campaign and doing, or not the campaign, but the group on Facebook. They'll be doing live shows of their own on Facebook. They'll be doing again, we're planning all of these things so that you're on the Kickstarter. Cool, come over here, join this group. And we're all going to get together and we're going to have a good time. We're going to do late night, bonfire, telling stories, whatever we're going to do. But it'll all be exclusive on the Camp Rad Dog page. None of this will exist outside of the camp. So if you're not in the camp, then you don't get any of this.
That's awesome. I mean, I think the setup here is this is great. So Scott James is saying that if you need a counselor cover, he's game for it.
I to be perfectly honest, we're way out on this, but everything's in place. Everything is in place. I mean, all of the artists are in place. We know who's doing all of the camp Olympic versus cover, like everything is there. If you guys are interested in becoming cover artists for anybody really, but for BDI or for Totally Rad or whoever, you got to be coming in with the idea that, you know what, we've pretty much planned at least 6 months ahead of time, just because all these artists have all these different schedules. So we have to be able to be way out and be like, dude, I have this thing in July. Can you do it? Yeah, I can do it. Okay, great. So now we're planning, like I just started planning stuff for October. Okay. It's April and I'm planning for October right now. So anybody that's coming in now looking to become a cover artist, it's October time for us and nothing else in between.
So in terms of like your turnaround time, how many books would you say that you release a year? Like just different titles and everything, and you're writing and publishing and you know, basically overseeing everything.
Yeah.
How many titles are you doing a year?
Well, it varies. Like last year we did four different ones, but last year was our 10-year anniversary. So it was like we did Scheherazade, and then we did Princesses versus Zombies, and then we did Critter, and then we did Ursa Minor. We kind of purposely wanted to do a big mix of things. Whereas this year it's Legend of Oz's 10-year anniversary. So we're focusing heavily on Oz. We're going to do 3 of our campaigns are going to be Legend of Oz campaigns. Then we're going to have the Goth Day, May 22nd spinoff book. And then we'll have Camp Rad Dog in July. And then I'm doing a crossover with CB Zane. Our cat girl from Mars goes into the suck for his book. So this year it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4-ish different books across a few different, you know, platforms and so on.
That's awesome. Okay, so Scott James is saying his schedule's open in October, and he just finished Butts and Seats, which is really high grossing.
Well, right, October is when we launch the campaign. So we will actually need art prior to October because we need to have the covers to be able to market the thing in like September and so on. But if anyone's watching and you want to send me samples, you're welcome to send me samples. If I think it's going to fit with what we do, then we can talk about what it is. Absolutely.
Excellent. And this is
what keep forgetting that we're on YouTube right now. So basically find me on Facebook. This is the easiest way, guys. I live on Facebook. I'm on Facebook literally right now. So you can send me a message on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, of course you can message us. Twitter and Instagram is BDI Comics. Please go follow us there. You can shoot us messages there as well. And our social media director will let me know that you got messages and we'll figure out how to get it done.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's really cool is that, you know, Tom, you've always been a huge champion for artists and giving them an opportunity to work and to do all kinds of stuff. And I think that's really an important aspect of being in this business, is not just taking, but giving as well. It's not just about selling people your books or your concepts. It's also giving other people opportunities and helping them find their way. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I love art. So I'm always, I have 100 people I could tap on the shoulder right now and be like, you want to do a cover? But at the same time, it's like, I'm always looking for something else too. I don't want every one of my Kickstarter campaigns to just have the same 8 guys. Like they can do the job 100%. They can all do the job. 8 covers, it's all the same people. But particularly when you're moving between genres, superhero to westerns to whatever, sci-fi or whatever, sometimes there's guys that are going to fit that even better. And you'll be like, look, okay, we know we worked with you here, but we kind of want to maintain you in this genre. We're going to give somebody else the spot for this sci-fi dinosaur, whatever it is going to be. And 99% of the time, the artist will be like, yeah, dude, I get it. Totally. Just come back whenever you need me for something else. But yeah, no, I love artists. I love trying to find new people to do art and do my characters and see what comes of it, because, I take chances on people. And I took a lot of, yeah.
Hang on, Tom. I'm sorry. We're going to take a break in a minute, but we will be back. We need to hear a word from our sponsor. We're going to come back, and Tom is going to pick up exactly where he leaves off. And break time.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise. A promise of adventure. A promise of excitement. A promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Today's comics market is ripe with new titles by creators who are determined to get their books into your hands. My name is Onrie. For the last decade, I've been making and selling my own creator-owned comics and dealing as a collector in live sales. My signature series, Hutchison, is the book that cannot be defeated in battle and has over 250,000 copies in print. Now I'm taking comics to the next level and laying the groundwork for my fellow creators to get their voices heard so they can connect directly with you. This is your chance to engage live with top comic book talent and get your comics signed without having to wait in long lines or pay any fees. But remember, we only have a limited amount of their books in stock, so always remember to call it as you see it. You're watching Virtual Signings with Onrie, the live event show.
And we're back. Tom, we were talking about, you accepting, you always looking for different artists and getting a different feel for everything. And now we're in the back end of our show. And before we go on with that topic, you got a whole variety of different books here. And let's talk a little bit about what we got here. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, that book actually is a great example of what I did art-wise, because there's at least 4, maybe 5 people in there that had never worked for BDI before, and they got put into the book. So last year was our 10-year anniversary, and it was Showgirl's 25th anniversary, and there was nothing happening for Showgirl's anniversary. I was like, that's super weird. So I was like, okay, look, Penny for Your Soul is a Vegas book. Showgirls is a Vegas movie. Let's just combine the two and do this art book. I think it would be super cool. So the art book is designed from cover, well, not from the cover. The cover happens in the middle of the story, but from page 1 to page 20, it's basically in order to tell the story of Showgirls through pinups that were done by David Harrigan, Jen Broomall, Brian Peterson, Rob Hicks, Marissa Pope, Eve Fournier. It's just filled with all new art. It's super, super cool. It came out amazing. And like I said, there's like 4 or 5 new people that have never worked for BDI before. That is their first Big Dog Inc. work. And that was super fun to put together. Because again, I love art. I'm always looking for new people. And there was a lot of people that I knew that I had talked to before about doing stuff, and it just had never worked. And this was such an obscure, outside the box project that I just sent messages. I was like, dude, Rob, you want to do something finally? He's like, yeah, let's go. And there it was. We did a 69-hour Kickstarter last year. It was a huge success, and the book stands on its own, man. It's a great piece of work. Great art.
And one thing I like about it, from what you told me earlier, is that this tells the story of Showgirls through the art. Yeah.
All of the pieces were designed from scenes from the movie. So when we got to put them into the book, we put those scenes in order. So while obviously it doesn't tell you everything that happens, it's only 20 pages. You can, if you know Showgirls, you'll know, okay, here we are, all the way through.
And guys, the artwork in this book is phenomenal. We got 1 copy of this book in stock, and the art in here is very diversified. I think if you're looking to work for Tom or to do any kind of stuff for BDI, this is a great kind of a segue to get a sense of the kind of stuff that Tom actually wants to see in his books.
To some degree. I mean, Penny for Your Soul is an outlier. I mean, it's the one that we do that is, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the most sexy. I mean, it's a Vegas book, so we go all the way with it. But if you were to look at Critter, we do not do those type of covers and images of, because it's just not what the book is. So everything that we do artistically has to have a tone for the book, and whatever that tone is, we then have to translate that into art. So, there's definitely guys that, their style is perfect for Penny, just like we talked about. It's perfect for Penny, but it's not perfect for Critter, and so on. So we kind of move artists in and out of these things as we feel works best for the product.
Excellent. So, Tom, what are we doing this for today?
Those are $20.
$20 on this, and we got one of them. $20 on this bad boy. And guys, this book is in mint condition. It is absolutely beautiful. If you want it, all you got to do is call it as you see it. It is going to be right here. I have shown this book on our live sales show before, and if no one claims it, I might just put it back in the vault and see what happens in a little while, because you never know what can happen with books. It's really interesting. So let's talk about Critter. You were mentioning Critter a little bit earlier, and you did these really cool covers here that are in limited print run on these books here. So,
yeah, we did Boom Comics a few years. We don't really do a ton of homages, but Boom Studios about 5 years ago put the Power Rangers book out, and they did this series of covers where all the Rangers were like holding their helmets in front of them. And so when we came in to do Critter number 21, it was kind of like Critter's back. It was the first time we'd done a Critter issue in a long time. I was like, let's do something special with this, because the story even really starts to dive into the idea of all of these parallel dimension alternate critters. I was like, let's do a set of critters with them similar to the Power Rangers, where they're holding up their ears, just like the Power Rangers were holding up their helmets. And so we called this set, it's all about the ears. And you can see that's the vampire critter that he's got right there. There's a steampunk critter. There's a sci-fi critter that we call the Catgirl from Mars, and that's the Catgirl from Mars is the one that is going to be crossing over with C.B. Zane this fall with his book called Into the Suck. She's like a outer space, very throwback to like 70s, 80s style space girl stuff. So that should be super, super fun. And yeah, so there's 5 of them that we've done in the set that you've got there. And there is a 6th one that will be coming on our next campaign for Critter, which will probably be January when we bring back another Critter book, because it's in production right now. But just like we talked in the first half there, we have so many projects this year. There's no spot to put a Critter book in this, so it'll probably be January, and we will have a 6th version, which will actually be Catnip, who's this character right here in the blue. This is another alternate version, and this is the version of Critter that is going to exist in our Goth Day special edition that'll be coming out May 22nd. May 22nd is it's World Goth Day. Last year we did Goth Day. We had a number of variant covers like this one. Here's Ursa Minor, kind of done in the what Nia Ruffino calls the white goth instead of black. So we did a bunch of variant covers for that, but the books were just issue number 1. So like this is issue number 1 of Ursa Minor, just reprinted. It was our 10-year anniversary. We did something special. But we did have Catnip. She appeared on one of the Goth Day books. So that is technically her first appearance, though it's sort of cameo-ish because it's just the cover. This spin-off comics that we did last year is actually her first appearance. And then we will be bringing her back for Goth Day this year for an actual brand new story. So you're going to get a lot of fun covers, but you're also going to get a completely new story that CB Zane is drawing, and it looks ridiculously cool. I'm so excited to have this book out. He is absolutely leveling himself up. I've never had a book of mine have the I don't know what to call this, the style that we put, and a lot of it, it's I wrote it into the script. I purposely did these things. Like we have musical notes like built into these panels as this character is sort of chasing the music across the city. The musical notes are built into the panels and stuff. It's so cool.
Can't wait.
Yeah, no, it's great. And then we have Wes Hartman doing colors, who he did this book. He didn't do this cover, but he did the book. and he did a great job. It's really dark and moody, and it's got this really nice look to it. But I was like, Wes, I want you to do this again because you're familiar with the character in the scene. But I want to take the colors up a notch. I want to really latch on to the noir element of this style while still maintaining a touch of the superhero color that we're all used to. And he was like, yeah. So he turns in this page. I was like, just do this one page. Let's just monkey around with this style. Just do this one page. Let's see what you come up with. And then we can kind of modify it from there as far as how we want to go forward. And he turns in this page, and I was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. What am I looking at? How I've never seen anything like this in a Big Dog book before. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be awesome. And I really hope you guys dig it because it's really written in a way that I really was putting, I put a lot into my scripts, but with this one, I wanted to push the art. I wanted to push the color. I wanted to push the storytelling. I wanted everything to kind of level up, and I wanted everybody to feel it. And I think you're going to feel it. I think it's going to be good.
I can feel it. And that's the energy. So that you want to see in creator own, in any comic. I mean, really most of the time, you take a publisher like Boom, and they have a very different focus of how they bring their projects together. But I want to talk to you more as a fan now, as we're coming into the last segment of the show here. What comics are you like? What were the comics that inspired you? Like what do you read now? What did you read before? Because I see a lot of fun 90s stuff. I've watched your sales show before. I picked up some stuff before, and you got a nice variety of things. And I know that I personally, when I buy comics, I'm looking to cherry pick at times. Oh, I know that this customer likes, say Hulk, so I'm going to pull a bunch of Hulk books. But then there are those comics that it's I want to sell that because this is a comic I like, and I know that I will enjoy pitching it. But let's get away from that and focus on the comics that kind of got you into this field.
Nothing drove me to make comics. Nothing. It was, I know that's weird, right? I was so inspired, but no, this was something, like I said, this was something that was just going to be a side thing. Hey, maybe I can write a comic and maybe I'll take it to a con and maybe I'll have some fun with it. And that was it. That was the entirety of my thought process of making comic books. There was never a thought process of this is what I want to do. The stuff that I grew up with was, I started reading comics loosely in the 70s. First comic I ever bought was Godzilla number 16 from Marvel. I didn't know what a comic book was, but I knew what Godzilla was. And so that's what got me into the comic book realm of it's like a book, but it's pictures and okay, what's going on? And so that's what got me into comics. And then from Godzilla, I went into Ghost Rider, Wonder Woman, and just all kinds of stuff. And then I was just off to the races. I was just down the path. The stuff that I can what's the question, I guess, is so what, there's inspiration, I guess, in my writing, and most of that I can attribute to Chris Claremont, because I was reading the X-Men back in the day. Of course, the 80s was the X-Men. And I recognized that what Chris was doing was different in a lot of cases than some of the stuff that I was reading elsewhere. And so Chris's stuff to me was okay, this isn't just me reading words. I can hear these people in my head. He's making accents and dialects that when you read it, you hear it. It's like Cannonball. He says, I'm nigh invulnerable when I'm blasting. That's not real words. You can't just say that as real words. You can only hear that as that sort of Southern twang. And so when I do comics, my thing is okay, I want, when people read the books, I want there to be at least an attempt at when you read this character and you read that character, there should be a way that they speak that differentiates them, so that when you read this character and if they're talking to each other and you read the other character, in your head you're thinking, well, that guy's a scientist and that girl's a cat girl superhero. They sound different. And so I do try and do that. So a lot of my influences, we should say influences as opposed to inspirations, influences came from like the 80s and early 90s of comics, because that's when I was deep in the comic book world.
Yeah. And you had mentioned before, so did you had a store and then you branched off from that to make your own comics?
Yeah.
And, I see things from such a different prism now as, being the naive young man who wanted to make his own comic book series. Like this world that opens up when you get into selling other comics, because you look at trends that are like, we were talking about Deadpool earlier, those kinds of things that kind of go up and down. And I don't think you can really focus on trend chasing when you're making comics. You really
I don't give two shits about trends. I don't care at all. Like I buy comics, I sell comics, whatever they are. I don't care. I'm not there like, oh, you don't have the Spider-Man 300. Like, I don't care. You got a bunch of Spider-Man? Give me some Spider-Man. We're going to take it home. We're going to look at it. We're going to price it out. We're going to have some fun with it. We're going to tell people this is the artist, this is the writer, this is the story. It's not just about the keys, man. I mean, the keys are fine. You want to sell keys, be my guest, sell keys. But there's so many more comics that are not keys that are still super fun to read. And that's what I have fun with comics is it's like,
actually, let me just tell you in terms of that, because there's this one book right here that I honestly, in my personal opinion, couldn't care less about. You guys, you see it? It's Amazing Spider-Man 55.
Yeah.
The only reason why anybody cares about that book is the cover. No one cares about the story. There's no one who's going to tell you anything about the story. And to me, that's what comics are. I mean, what's the point of having all these pages? And I saw a post from you before, like a couple weeks ago, and it was right on the money that, like, don't forget, comics are more than just these covers or just these prints or whatever. There's actual stories being told in here that are laid out, and that is a tremendous amount of work.
Sure.
Doing just writing a script, doing the layouts, overseeing everything. That is the meat of what we do. That's the meat and potatoes of it. The covers.
Well, I think that's one of the best things about independent comics is you don't have people chasing your book because it's the latest appearance of whatever thing, first appearance. That's not the point. I mean, most independent stuff, it's the first appearance of something all the time. Just by the way, key collectors, hey, every time somebody makes a new independent book, that's the first appearance. That's the key book. Go get it. But the people that are buying independent books are buying it for your story, for your character. That's really first and foremost. If they don't care about your character, they're not buying your variants because, I mean, they might like a specific artist, for example. But generally speaking, if they don't care about your character, your story, they're not buying your indie book. There's too much content on the market for people to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy every indie book that there is on the market. So you have to get people to engage in your product. And in some cases, that's just kind of throwing something against the wall and see if it sticks. I mean, in a lot of cases, that's the way that it is. I mean, even with Image Comics, you'll see there's so much stuff that just comes out and it's like some will hit and some won't hit. But if you do your research and you look at the companies that have been around for a long time, Zenescope, Aspen, Big Dog Inc. even now. I mean, Valiant went away, came back. There's companies that have been around for a long time and doing the same characters. That means something. That means that they have generated some sort of a fan base that keeps coming back. And that's what you got to be paying attention to. Maybe you've never read Fathom, but go get the new Fathom book. Try it out. See what's going on, because clearly these guys are still here after, I don't know, they're around almost 20 years now, in the case of Aspen Comics. Clearly they're doing something right. And you shouldn't be ignoring that. For us, we've been around now 11 years. Why are we around 11 years? We're barely even in comic shops. We deal direct with comic shops, but our whole model has changed now. So we're direct to customer. But we're still here, and we're still generating new content, new characters, new titles, new everything, and we're growing. Why? But independent comics just gets like this shoulder, like, that's just indie books. It's like, no, man, this is where creativity happens. This isn't Marvel and DC where you have like Disney and Warner Brothers and AT&T ahead of them, like, licensing problems, all these kinds of things. That kind of in some ways can stifle creativity, not completely, obviously, but in some ways these books have to go a certain way. Whereas with independent books, they're creator owned. The writers and creators can do whatever they want with them. So you get a much better roller coaster ride out of independent and creator owned books, because you're getting something new, you're getting something fresh, you're getting something that doesn't have 50 years of history that you have to worry about being retconned or rebooted. You're just into a new story and you're just running with it. Like what back in the day, I mean, my first X-Men comic, I think, was 210, which is the Storm and Cyclops fight where she had no powers and she beats him and controls the X-Men. I was like, damn, that's cool. I didn't worry about the 200 issues that came before it. I was there. I was at that point, and I just started reading the book. We got to get back to that point. We got to get back to just let's read the book. Let's enjoy what's happening from a story standpoint. Stop worrying about whether it's a first appearance or a death or whatever it is. Just enjoy the story for what it is.
And the presentation too, because for me it's like it's all about the finished product. Like, I want to see a striking cover. I want to see something that gets me to want to open it up,
sure,
and see that first page and just get sucked in. And you're 100% right. Another cool thing about independent books is I feel like everything in comics is really just kind of like a matter of, if you want to be in it and you want to build something, you will naturally do the things. And that's not just to say the empty words of like, I want to work in comics full time, and not taking the proper steps in order to make that happen. It's like, there's things you need to do. There's, and the longer you do it, and the longer you sacrifice your time and your energy, the more you're going to start to see things come together if you're paying attention to what you need to do to improve. And that's definitely something that you see, and you're always reaching for a higher level too. I see you leveling up. That's why I think I'm so impressed by what I see from you, Tom, is because I see you always like, trying to reach for new heights. You're not just staying here. The Tom Hutchison you were when I first met you and where you are now, it's almost incomparable. I mean, you're still you, but you're reaching for different heights. You're not doing the same stuff you were doing last year. You're doing new things, and it's really, really cool. I love the concept of Camp Rad Dog, and I think it's gonna be a total hit. I can't wait to see it. I just love watching this kind of stuff happen. And you have a Kickstarter right now. We're coming to the last 5 minutes of the show.
Yep.
So I'll give you a chance to tell us all about the Kickstarter. Tell us where we need to go, and tell us how you feel about how it's going.
Yeah, so we're just into week 2. It's the Legend of Oz, like we've been talking about, the Legend of Oz: The Wicked West. It's our 10-year anniversary for this book. It's a Western reimagining of the Wizard of Oz. So instead of ruby slippers, Dorothy's got ruby spurs, ruby bullets, Toto's her horse, and so on and so on. We've done 5 volumes of the book. We're starting on volume 6 now, which is what these Kickstarters are for. If you have missed out previously, all of the previous books are available. You can dive right into the entire set if you want, or like we just talked about, just grab the one that we're on right now, give it a read, check it out. If you like it, you can work your way backwards and forwards with trade paperbacks and so on the web store. So it's been a tremendous series. It's been on the Diamond Top 300 back in the day when it first launched. It dives into the world that L. Frank Baum created, but instead of just adapting what he did, like book by book by book, we've basically taken his stories and used them as bullet points. So the battle with the Gnome King, the search for Ozma, so on and so on. We weave in and out of those bullet points while telling this story in our way. So if you know Oz really well, all the 14 books he wrote, if you really know Oz, you're going to get that nostalgia of like, oh, I know where they are. I know what's happening. but you're going to get those stories in a completely new way. And if you don't know Oz, then you're just getting an awesome Western fantasy story, kind of steampunk style thing. You're just getting that awesome steampunk Western story issue after issue. So jump over to Kickstarter, just look up Legend of Oz. We'll come right up to the top. You can jump in. There's a whole bunch of different covers. Some of them are almost sold out. So be aware of that. Do yourself a favor and get there quickly. But there's plenty to check out. And like I said, if you missed anything, you can get it all. If you just want to try one book, you can try one book.
Tom, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And, I just want to say, man, once again, it's really great. I haven't done anything on Kickstarter yet, but I am definitely watching and observing. And there's two ways to learn, right? There's either I could take a class and learn how to do this stuff, or I can watch what the other pros are doing.
Sure.
And I learned so much every single time I chat with you. I wasn't even focused on selling your books today because I know these books are going to sell. For me, it's just every time I got you in a room, I want to pick your brain. And I just feel like I've gained so much just from having you on the show today. And I really hope that folks who are watching the show are going to take advantage of what Tom is saying here and go to his Kickstarter page and back this campaign, because that's the whole thing about comics. Tom understands this business very well, and he also understands that everybody's comic is every comic is somebody's first comic. Doesn't matter whether it's issue 5 or 15, whatever the case is. That's somebody's first comic, and you got to have a sense of how to bring them in. And Tom just straight up told us all that he understands that, and that's why it doesn't matter if you're jumping into the series now because you have a chance to get caught up. But even if you didn't, and you just picked up that book that they're working on, you're getting the latest work, which he's putting a lot of effort into, and you're seeing something happen that really is not the same thing that happens in most mainstream comics. This direct market, Kickstarter and everything, this has created a new pathway for everybody. So this is just really great. And it's been just absolutely wonderful having you on the show, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This is always fun.
Awesome. All right. So we are wrapping up now. I will be back next week with a different guest, but we will definitely have Tom back in the future. And we're gonna have some fun next week. I will be on tomorrow for my live shopping show at 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Central, and 10 p.m. Eastern. And Tom, you have a show tomorrow. You want to tell us where you're going to be and when?
Yeah, well, actually, tonight we're going to be doing a Kickstarter show on Facebook. Myself, Monty Moore, Wes Hartman, Jim Noble, we will be on Facebook talking Kickstarters. And then tomorrow night we do our live movie show. We're going to be talking all things Wizard of Oz with a special guest movie reviewer and Oz historian Ryan J. We will have them tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. See you guys later.